got a car pulling up here. Looks like it's got Ontario plates. I'm not sure because it's kind of hidden in the shadow, but I think it's Ontario plates. So the people are going into the church. I'm just going to see, what the plates are, because they may not be Ontario. It may be somewhere else. It's not Ontario. I think it's an American. Oh, wait a minute. Yours to discover. Yes, it's Ontario. Okay. So anyhow, yes, but the province's name is kind of obscured. So yes, yours to discover. That is, I believe, the motto of Ontario. Or Ontario, for those who might remember that. And so these people are most likely Unitarians from Ontario. I think possibly Ottawa. I could be mistaken, but I think downtown Honda or downtown Toyota. I'm not sure, but I think that is a Ottawa dealership. I think I've seen cars from Ottawa with that plate holder. Anywho, as I said, it's a quiet day at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. Don't have a whole lot of people showing up for the service, but we do have these people who showed up from Ontario, and what would appear to be the father and a teenage boy went into the church, while the what would appear to be the wife stayed in the car. So I presume they're just having a short visit, and basically one or both are coming out in a short while. So we will continue to circulate here. I should mention that my camera shut off unexpectedly earlier when I was in a bit of a monologue. I don't know when it was when it shut off. I presume it shut off because the sensor overheated, but it sometimes shuts off just for no reason whatsoever. But because the camera's hanging from my chest, I don't see that it is shut off sometimes, because I'm not looking at the screen while I'm walking back and forth with picket signs. It's sort of acting as a kind of personal security camera. And basically documenting pretty much everything, I hope. If it was up to me, I'd have a camera that never stopped. Basically record absolutely everything that happens in the protest, because you never know when something significant may happen. You don't know if and when you might be assaulted by a Unitarian. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but on those occasions when it does happen, you'd like the camera to be running. Same goes for when my picket signs are stolen. Again, it's not something that happens all that often, but it certainly has happened on at least, I'd say, 4 or 5 occasions, and maybe half a dozen or more, where Unitarians have stolen my picket signs. So it'd be nice to have video evidence of that, and so on and so forth. It's good to have video evidence of the police interactions, although usually, when the police show up, I see them coming, so I make darn sure the camera's running. But sometimes when I'm just walking back and forth here in my spiel, basically doing a monologue, because basically to explain things, while I'm protesting, so people can watch the video and learn about what the protest is about. Sometimes it shuts off without my knowledge, and that's what happened earlier. I just noticed it Because I know this does happen occasionally, I check the camera periodically to see if it's still running, and I checked it, and sure enough, it wasn't running. So we got another person showing up here today. Another person who's a regular attendee of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and I believe involved in the religious education of children, perhaps, and who doesn't seem to be the least bit concerned about the fact that the Unitarian Universalist religious community misuses Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to conceal what the UUA's Canadian attorney describes as such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So it's amazing just how oblivious these Unitarians are, basically huge amounts of willful ignorance and psychological denial about their clergy sex abuse problem, which includes such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, but is by no means limited to that. And of course there's the Sunday school teachers, some of whom are guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape as well. And then, there's the, lay people here and there that are also guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And, but, my main concern is the clergy and the Sunday school teachers and other religious professionals who, are guilty of sexual abuse of children, and the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association goes to extreme lengths to try and hide this, conceal this from the public, even after, some of them anyway, these people have been charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes, pedophilia and rape. So you would think that, once a person has been charged and tried and convicted and sentenced to a jail term for committing pedophilia and or rape, that the Unitarian Universalist religious community would no longer seek to hide that fact, but they do. The Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for blogging about two Unitarian Universalists who were charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and sentenced to jail term. There was really no question that they were guilty. They'd been found guilty in the American criminal justice system, specifically the Massachusetts criminal justice system, and they'd both been sentenced to jail terms and actually spent time in jail. I believe Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell served approximately 4 years of an 8-year sentence for the forcible rape of teenage Tibetan refugees who he had lured away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. And then there was Richard Buell of First Parish, Norwell, who, to the very best of my knowledge, was not and never was a Unitarian Universalist minister, but nonetheless was lumped in with this legal bullying because he was the only person who I had specifically referred to as a pedophile rapist, because he was charged, tried, and convicted of raping preteen children who were no older than 12 years old at the times that the rapes took place, and might have been as young as 6 years old when the rapes first started, according to some estimates. Certainly were somewhere between 9 and 12 years old when he raped them. And this, in my view, can be properly described as a pedophile rapist. And so, he was the only Unitarian Universalist who I'd specifically described as a pedophile, and more specifically as a pedophile rapist. There were and are other Unitarian Universalists, indeed Unitarian Universalist ministers, who are guilty of pedophilia, and who in some cases have been charged, tried, and convicted of the sexual abuse of children, at least a few cases that I'm aware of. where ministers have been charged, tried, and convicted, sentenced to jail terms, went to jail for molesting children, young children, very young children, preteen children. And then, quite recently, since being falsely accused of blasphemous libel in an effort to hide pedophilia and rape, Reverend Ron Robinson, former head of the Association of Christian Unitarian Universalists, can't remember the exact term for this group, but essentially, a group of self-identified Christian Unitarian Universalists. He was recently arrested on child pornography charges. I believe he was arrested in late March, or possibly, I'm pretty sure it was, late March he was arrested in Tulsa area, Tulsa, Arizona. And according to the news reports, following his arrest, Reverend Ron Robinson confessed to the police, that, beyond, what they already knew about him in terms of the child abuse porn he was watching, he basically confessed to them that he had fantasies about raping and even murdering young children. So while he may not have acted upon those fantasies himself, and then of course we don't know for sure that he didn't, he certainly did, view the child porn, that he was arrested for accessing. I believe it was even in some sort of live video things, if I understand the news reports correctly. So anyway, that's a recent example of a Unitarian Universalist minister who has all appearances of being guilty of committing pedophilia, and if not actually committing rape, certainly fantasizing about raping very young children. To be honest, although the UUA did sort of briefly report that, I haven't really heard much about it since. It's basically very quiet. Don't hear a lot happening. I've actually been considering contacting the Tulsa County Sheriff's Department to see what's happening with the Reverend Ron Robinson case. Anywho, we shall continue our protest here. We got some people going in with a couple of young children and an older person going in there. And I'm not sure, but it looked like the man might have stopped to have a look at the not the picket sign slogan, the chalk slogan here. So actually today I just put down 2 chalk slogans, if I'm remembering correctly. This one here, Unitarians cover up and deny clergy abuse, which they most certainly do. As far as denial of clergy abuse goes, and as far as more specifically denial of child sex abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, i.e., pedophilia committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, one of the most egregious examples of that, besides falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel in an effort to intimidate me into removing blog posts that tell the readily verifiable truth about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. The moderator of the UUA, the recently deceased moderator of the UUA, Jim Key, also known as James C. Key, or as I like to call him, Jim See No Evil Key. He, in 2014, during the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association in Providence, Rhode Island, inserted what he described as a UUA board apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct into the middle of his first moderator's report to a Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly. He was elected in the summer of 2013 at the UUAG in 2013, and so his first moderator's report was a year later in 2014. And in that so-called UUA board apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct, he, hey John, good morning. It's always a good morning when I'm accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. Doesn't get better than that. Yeah, it's whenever someone says good morning, especially if they're Unitarians entering the Unitarian Church from Montreal, I do like to remind them how much I'm thoroughly enjoying being falsely accused of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in the 21st century by atheist Unitarians. It really is very entertaining, a huge honor and privilege as far as I'm concerned. I mean, really, it's on the one hand, it's disgusting that Unitarian Universalists would falsely accuse anyone of any form of blasphemy for any reason whatsoever, but it's especially disgusting that Unitarian Universalists, especially atheist ones, would accuse a person of blasphemous libel for blogging about the clergy sex abuse in an effort to hide that. I mean, what a shameful misuse of blasphemy law. I mean, it's just, you know, it's immoral and it's unethical. It's close to being criminal because it's basically a false accusation based on a false pretext. If the Unitarian Universalist Association went to the police and said, we want you to arrest Rob and Edgar on a charge of blasphemous libel for